Hi, ladies. I don't know if this will make much sense to you, but I'm trying to walk myself through how MK created a beautiful Take 5 Week 1 Lesson A with us. So I've got two different screens here. I have got the Hubs Manager open to the page saying how to do a new form, and then also the form that she has done. So the first instruction is going to be to give it a name and a title, which she has clearly done already, and that is for the general form. From that point, the guide on page 3 tells us to update a variety of things. One of the things that I want to point to here is this use latest measurements. If you read what it says on page 5, that means that it will determine the user's last measurements from the most recent values in the user profile within the form's assigned period. So their example is if an HRA is to be completed by March 1st to March 30th, the user is measured and recorded on March 2nd and then completes his HRA on March 15th. Any questions that refer to measurements will be used from the March 2nd. If he then re-entered on the 20th, those measurements will be used instead. Conversely, if not checked, the system will always use March 2nd. So clearly, we would want to use the most recent, the latest measurements. If we were doing Nikki, for instance, the measurements literal on this. I'm going to leave it unchecked because this is a plan that they are doing. They're looking at the components of the Take 5 and then moving on from there. The other area that I think is important to note is that visible on the wellness score. And again, looking at the hub, if it's checked, points can be assigned on the wellness score for completing the form. The form is only considered complete when all required questions have been answered. So we have used this for a variety of videos and things like that. But if we wanted to create a form and give them points for starting their measurements at the beginning of a coaching session and taking their measurements at the end, then that would be an example of a wellness score being assigned to that. So if these don't make questions, just move on and know that this is my third or fourth time through the forms, and hopefully at some point it will begin to make sense to all of us. The next item that they have got is switching to the risk view. And the risk view is quite honestly where I always get really confused on this. These are all sections underneath. So I think I'm going to go ahead and take a look at what's on the risk view in the overview of lesson 1 plan, and then we'll possibly come back to the forms view. So here you can see that on the risk view, she has added a waist. Not exactly sure what that means. Possibly it is a waist measurement. I don't recall seeing anything. And there's not a summary tree on this. And there is also no risk associated with it. So that's very interesting to me, but I'm again not sure exactly what she's doing in that particular point. So I'm going to go ahead. I just wanted to explore that and go back to the form view. So there's the form view or the risk view, and here they've got some questions and answers. I believe that this is where we would put in anything that we wanted on a quote form. A form that I'm thinking of that we'll try to create next will be the measurements form that Nikki and I had talked about at our last meeting. So we're going to right-click on the form to add a section. She has already added all of these sections, but if you see when I right-click on it, it's got add a new section. So I'm not going to do that, but that's where all the questions would be built, is within that section. So here she's given a plan overview, and in that plan overview is all of her description. The description, I think, is where any typed part of the form would be. So again, on this one, if we think about what she's actually got, is here it's a description of what they want to do during the 4-week workshop and what the guidelines of that will be. Within that, I do believe that you can add a question or insert another section below it, and I don't think that she had anything within those. Next, she's got our next quote section, which would be the Take 5 principles. That was all on one PDF form that I had given her. Ready, Set, Go looks like she's got some additional spots in here. So the Ready, Set, Go is a section, but if you go on the plus bar here, you can see that that's where she's got her first question, and the question that she has posed to the participants is going to be stated further when you, so it's got a title, My Commitment, Choose One, and then within that, if you go to the expansion, she has got what I would say would be 3 questions. They're a checkbox because the person's going to choose one of the 3. So the answers, My Commitment, Choose One, and then these are all answers that she's got. So they can choose either I'm all in, I'm in, or they want to make small steps. So those would all be the answers, and they're going to choose one of them. So that part actually makes sense to me. And then the next section would be the vision that she's got. And these are blank steps for her to put in there. So the question is displayed here. The answers are down into that next segment where she's chosen a text box, not a check box here. So there's a variety of different things in this one. So if I go to the edit there, you can see you've got your choice of a text, a memo, a list, a drop down, calculated. That's interesting. We'll maybe have to see what that is. Measurement, we'll have to see what that is as well. And possibly that will be a place where we want to go. So there's lots of moving parts on this particular item, but essentially each of these sections is the verbiage, the typed section of a PDF form that I have given her. So again, in the create a flexible plan, and during that they were given a 3-day tracker that they could load up there. 3 areas from improvement are going to be text boxes again. So again, they've got now a 1, 2, or 3 on their particular choices. So those are all questions, and the actual finished product is a really pretty handout that they end up with. So that's where I'm going to jump to, because strategies I will implement are just another 3 text boxes that they'll choose. And then here is the My Take 5 Week 1. And that is actually another section that she has created. But this is where it pulls it all together. So here you can see, let's take a look at this, where she's got just the Take 1 5. You can see this gearbox is a little bit different. So within that gearbox is where she has put a widget. And that widget is really cool because if you look at it, it's an assessment report is the widget that she had. And now here are all the answers to everything else that we had put in within each of those questions. So that actually makes a little bit of sense to me, and I'm going to pause this and try and maybe create a new form called Take Your Measurements. Here we go. We will see if this is going to work. I'm going to create a new form, and the form name of this, as I mentioned, is going to be an assessment, I think is what we want. No, we're going to put it under Balanced Wellness so we can find it. And we're going to title it Take Your Measurements. You might want to spell your correctly. And rather than retyping that, I am just going to do a copy paste. There we go. She has always told us, let's see, update window. So we want to use the latest measurements on this so that if they do update their waist measurement, for instance, we'll have that available. For now, I'm not going to do the wellness score, but we can certainly come back to that if we want to. So now I'm going to just write a note to Nikki, describe why measurements are important. Okay, so from there, let's remember to save it. And now we're going to go in, right click on this, add a new section, and under that section, I guess we're going to call it starting measurements. Here's a question answer path, which is interesting. Not sure what that might be. Choose an answer, selected answer, none, take your measurements. Okay, so I'm going to ignore that. Go in here and type starting measurements. From there, I'm going to right click and add a question. Let's see if this is right. The question is going to be, let's see what happens when we hit measurement. That's nice. It's got a history graph. So not sure if we're going to be able to utilize that or not. I'm going to stretch this box down. But I'm going to try, I think, and use measurement. And for here, we'll just put chest. Oh my goodness, here we go. Okay, so it's got all sorts of things that we could choose from here. I do not personally see a whole lot other than there's, well, okay, so we'll do weight. Let's change this to weight just in case. And maybe it's required. Let's hit save. Now I don't know exactly if they're going to have a, I think there is a question that automatically comes in on that. So if we kind of right click on that, I don't know if we want to hit add an answer. Not sure. So we will just leave that as new answer, and that'll be their weight. Not sure if that's correct, but we will see. Let's see what this says, range minimum. Let's just put that it's 0.2 and minimum of 5 as the highest. I have no idea. All right, so we're going to add a new question. See if that's right, and it is going to be a measurement. Here we'll put in chest, give it a code. I don't actually see chest measurement there, so I'm going to create one. I think we'll have to go back and do measurements there. So let's just go ahead and save this as a new question, actually. It requires a code, so I'm just going to put weight in there again, and we'll come back to that because I think what we need to do is go in and add a measurement, but we'll see about that. So we've got it saved here, and it kind of auto saves everywhere. So with that said, let's go back into the gearbox and choose measurements over here. And we want to add a new measurement. Let's see if there is just a chest measurement. And there is not, so we're going to create a new measurement. Give it a code of Balanced Wellness Chest. And then in the description, we probably want to give them a describe how to measure. And also in the help, give them tips here. So that's for us to go back to Nikki and actually add that. So I think what we want to do is give it a minimum value of, say, 20 and a maximum value of 50. I don't know, just kind of guessing. Extended data, history, allow negative, no, active, yes, manager only, history manager only, multiple entries per day. No, we don't want any of that. So we're going to go ahead and save that. And now we're going to go back in, and we would see it there if we were to look for the measurement. It is actually there. And now we're going to go back to our form. So go to the forms. I'm not going to spend a ton of time doing all this, but I am going to actually search, because we had called this measurements, take your measurements. And I'm going to go back in under that chest. We need to edit this. Starting measurements. Weight. So we've got the weight, and now under starting measurements, we're going to add another one with that right click again. Add a question. That question is a measurement. It's the chest. Now we'll find our code in there, and if you recall, we put it as, let's hope we find our code in there. BW chest is what we're actually looking for. BW chest. Again, we could give a description or any of those items if we wanted as well. And now we're going to give this an answer. And that minimum is going to be 20 to 50. And we're going to put it under history graph label of that. All right, so now we want to test this. So I'm going to figure out a way to test this. I don't think that we've got a risk view that needs to be created, but I'm not positive about that. Add a risk type. I don't think we need a risk type, so I'm not going to do that. But we might need to in order to create a form. So I am going to go back one more time to that form view and try to create a widget. So under take your measurements, I think they had it as another section, and that would be then a widget. We're going to call it results. And honestly, not sure if this is safe or not, or correct or not. But under this, we're going to add a question maybe. Let's see if widget shows up. There's a tracker. Choose a widget. And we're going to choose a tracker widget. Nope, that gives us an up or down. So I guess that's how we actually can create a widget, but that is definitely not what we wanted. So we're going to cancel out of that and see if back under results we can find we're going to try and edit this and see if we can just plain and simple add a widget. I don't think it lets us. So under results, again, we're going to see if we can add a widget. Add a question. It's a widget, maybe a slider. I think it's going to be assessment report. Maybe measurements? I don't know. Yep, there we go. So under this one, we're going to put the weight because we had that in there. So we want to configure it, and what we want to add is we want to allow edit, and now we want to add in what the variety of them will be. So we've got weight, and we've also got waist, and we've also got, we'll put hip in, even though we don't have it down yet. And we're going to put in, oh, I love that heart rate training zones. We'll use that at another point. There's hip widest point. And we're going to put chest in. Wow, there's all sorts of cool ones in here actually. Body composition score, body fat percentage, describe how to measure. That's a nice one. And you can see that somebody's clearly done this because they've got all sorts of things, such as cardio score. I don't know, I don't see our Balanced Wellness, Waist to Navel, let's see if we can just type that in and see what shows up. Body well. It is not actually showing up, so not sure where we need to configure those things, but for the sake of this, I will just go ahead and put it in. And save it. Hope that actually saved it for us. It appears that we actually had a crash. So that kind of stinks.